Okay, greetings everyone and welcome to this PCR special for Marvel Spider-Man. Without further ado, let's start already. And let's see. Okay, first things first, let's see, it's been a little while. My work kind of gets in the way of things and the usual stuff. Anyway, here we are again, thankfully. Look at that. Spider-Man looks just so amazingly beautiful, yo. Look at that. Just, it's crazy. Anyway, okay. Here's a little hint or clue to what should be coming in the future with these videos. You see that black on his suit? The red and the black. Remember the part, remember the first Spider-Man trilogy where he gets the black suit, where it's not exactly, that he got the symbiote and everything, but, the symbolism in that is kind of the same, the black Spider-Man, and, how in the recent movie that just came out, he went full black first, as a matter of stealth and whatnot, but the color itself, and afterward he came out with a red and black suit. Anyway, that'll be a further discussion for now. So okay, let me catch some ground here, quite literally. Come on, Spider-Man, I know literally anything is ground for you, but let's see, let's get common ground here. It's shit. Oh, sorry about that, homie. Excuse me. Didn't mean to throw you off there. Okay, so last time we were expanding on the cultural process and collective experience. We discussed the representation of experience in popular settings. We discussed drama and human nature as well. Oh shit, someone just took a picture of me. And survival as well, a bit of it. Yes, I just read some notes, but it counts because those were the previous episode's notes, so I didn't mess anything up as to, the live speaking. Anyway, I didn't want to start this like, everything is like a lecture or something. So let's do some action here, save the day a little bit, earn our right to be Spider-Man for today, and then we'll continue discussing some things of importance here. Okay, there we go. So let's take this guy out. Oh, okay. Almost missed it. Look at that. That looks nice. Okay. Good. Now I beat up some bad guys. Shit. Okay. We're still in Ultimate. I forgot to say. That was one thing. Shit. So this is gonna be a little hard. I forgot to switch it back to I don't know, something that's not gonna get in the way of me playing, but that's not some part for now. Let's wipe out these douchebags. Cool, there we go. Oh shit, there we go. Oh, whoa, almost got caught there. Nah, you ain't gonna catch me slipping, homeboy. You better watch yourself. There we go, there we go. Shit, oh man. Wait, what was that? Shit, whoa. Damn, it's just getting heavy. Okay. That means we have to step it up a little bit here. Yep, definitely. There you go. Let's take this guy out. Fuck, okay. Shot his own homie. There we go. Whoa, did you see that? Wow. Now that was something. Whoa, he shot him in the guts. Okay. Nice. Time for the finisher, and I think we have one more guy here. He's quite stubborn, but he's gonna learn his lesson today. You better not. There you go.
Murder parade? Stop
Oh, look at that. We got everything accomplished. That's cool. So, okay, now we can dip and continue with our business. So, yes, last time, so we basically said last time that, you know, we discussed how a living system, maybe, yeah, most likely, a living system comes to become aware of itself and then represent itself because, as a consequence of its awareness. And it's because it gets kind of hard to explain because I'm trying to play here at the same time. Anyway, so it comes to represent itself, and the function of this representation is progress or evolution, whatever you want to call it, maybe. And then when you put it together in a system, in a living system, as in a bunch of organisms, you get a representation of everyone's experience and drama and whatnot, and then from there, as it evolves, it becomes more dense and high resolution, and you start getting differences and whatnot. Okay, let's get somewhere safe for now. Let's see. So that was what we covered. And so again, we start to see these as markers of, you know, culture, these markers of experience or existence, maybe, if you would call it, as culture. And once you start analyzing those, you can kind of trace back, you know, what was going on before that happened. See, that's another key reason why the whole representation process is useful, because again, it allows you to trace back, you know, and it allows you to conceptualize something that's not there, maybe, but is only evident, like the wind. You know what I mean? You can't see the wind really, but its marker, you could say, is the sensation on your skin when it flies on you. So that's a marker of its existence. Once you feel it, you can say there's wind, but you can't really see it, and that's kind of the same thing. Even though when you go back, you progress, and you know, it gets more elaborate, and this has to manifest physically, right, afterward, but it's a back and forth kind of process again. And when you do that, you get what's called like imagination, you could call it, because you're seeing something that's not there at this point, and it's kind of, it helps the guiding system, because otherwise how would you know where to go or what's next if you have nothing to look at, first of all? So we have the perception process in place, and that's needed, and that's obviously needed before you can see something. Now, us as humans primarily perceive with vision, but that's not the only way to perceive something, obviously. Like dogs, they construct their images not with vision but with smell. You know what I mean? It's kind of weird, But yeah, I mean, that's why they're not so good with vision. They're colorblind most of the time, but they have incredible sense of smell. And you know, these different smells and whatnot are they're more differentiated and more finely tuned than ours, and so that's how they create their mental pictures or mental representations. And so that's imaging. That's yeah, that's kind of what imaging is. Imagination. Oh shit, I just fucking crashed into a building. So now you start to get, you know, out of one single representational system an imagination of some sort, and then out of a collective system you get collective imagination, and it's a way of seeing into someone's mind, you could say, like into a species. And so you're trying to picture something that's not there with whatever it is that you already have, again, to go forward. And okay, let's take let's get to the roof here and maybe try to see if we can get a little different perspective here on the subject. So once you start getting imagination, you can see without seeing, and this manifests itself in behavior afterward. So for every action there's a reaction, and this whole thing has been a sequence of actions and reactions, really, that just get more elaborate. Shit, okay. Give me a second here. Okay, let me land on the ground here. So God, come on, I have this at the tip of my tongue here. Oh, you can talk to people? Big fan? Where? I don't see any fucking fan. Buddy, you must be out of your damn mind. Hey, well, I got 5 points for that. Okay. Anyway, so where were we? So we pretty much covered kind of what imagination is. It's a way of seeing something that's not there, but it's made up of whatever has been there. Like, it's an infinite process. I apologize if I keep on repeating some of the same things again, but I'm trying not to lose track here as I play. That's a nice part to chill here. Okay, cool. And okay. Oh, there you go. So this whole thing, you know, it gets stored somewhere. These representations of experience and whatnot, they obviously get stored somewhere. And you can see these in, well, the best example for the straight best example would be cave drawings, cave carvings and whatnot, where, you know, obviously these humans represented their experiences, you know, with their own imagination, as we discussed, on walls and such, and as they got more, as they kept evolving and civilizations kept growing, and these for these what would you call them, these representations got diverse, and you know, and they pretty much became, you know, they pretty much became symbols. You know, it's because, okay, let's see. Give me a second here. Okay, there we go. So, these representations basically became knowledge, and, you know, it has to be stored somewhere. And again, it's been stored in, you know, drawings, writings, and as we became more able to speak and communicate, you know, more linguistically, then we started to make up, you know, stories and whatnot, and started to verbally, verbally propagate these experiences and knowledge and representations. And so it's kind of like a universal memory system, again, for storage and whatnot. And as people got more complex, they could do this, you know, better and better, and people started realizing again the great importance of this whole process itself, and they started focusing on it a lot more. And you know, what you get out of trying to conceptualize something, or I guess in anything, when you're trying to conceptualize anything really, you have to make well, okay, maybe I'm just trying to think of this too hard. Let me just give me a second, trying to finish explaining a little here, and then kick some ass and try to continue. What you get out of this whole thing is basically symbolism, right? Where you're trying to represent something, but it could also mean so much more, because again, this whole thing is infinite. So you get a symbol, and the way a symbol works basically is you have okay, think of two groups of items that, you know, in each groups the items oppose each other, or not really opposed, but work hand in hand. And the first group would be the addressor and addressee, and addressor being, you know, the one making the stand or making the representation, and the addressee is one who this whole message, so to speak, is being delivered to, like an audience, right? And the audience could be anything. It could be yourself, it could be literally people, it could be a spirit, it could be an object, anything. And then the other group would be the whatever is being represented, in this case experience or reality, maybe. And the opposing item in that group would be whatever is being used to represent that, you know, which would be the medium or the vessel, the vehicle, if you would. Now let's take a drawing on a piece of paper, for example. You imagine an apple. you're fucking hungry, or let's just say you're fucking hungry, right? So you draw food. Now, who is the audience, first and foremost? I don't know. That's, you name it. Let's say there's someone else there. You're fucking mute. Now the audience is the other person there, and you're the addresser. And now the representation is hunger, right? Because you drew food on that shit for whatever reason. Let's just say you were hungry. And the medium that you were using to represent that was the piece of paper, the pencil, the drawing, you know, because hunger is not, it's got many physical manifestations that you just can't itemize it physically. You can itemize it conceptually, maybe to a greater extent, but even so, it's limited still. And that's why, you know, that's why we use our imagination as a guiding system, because again, everything is infinitely complex and we have a limitation in our, well, we have physical and mental limitations, and that's the whole purpose of evolving, to progress through those. And with your imagination, you start creating symbols, and these symbols, think of symbols as, you know, okay, so, okay, let's go back to imagination. Think of an image or a picture. Usually we think of images as pictures because it's visual. We're vision based. But when it comes to representing these amongst ourselves linguistically, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Now, pretty sure you heard that one before. Now, symbols are worth 1,000 pictures. So, in that case, it's really, that's why it's so interesting too, and that's why it becomes a whole drama of itself again, because it means so many things, and with so many people, like, you know, you relate, but then again you don't, and it's just a survival system again. And now you get, you know, as a shared symbolic representational system out of everyone's imagination, you start getting metaphors as this whole thing starts becoming common amongst the people or the living things. Yeah, you start getting metaphors because they start to get recognized as common, and you can use them, you know, kind of universally. You know, you can think of these as archetypes maybe too. That's, although that's a little more elaborate. Once you get this whole thing going on and people start to assimilate this whole thing and start acting it out, then you get sequence or sets of behaviors that can be grouped together and associated with certain experiences, themes, occurrences, and whatnot. And then you can start to call these archetypes because they start to form like a character, if you would, according to our human understanding of these, what I would call natural forces of nature anyway. They're just really, really differentiated. Again, everything's like a spectrum. So we're fucking swinging here in circles. Anyway, so there's that. And now I guess it's just a matter of how the cultural system has evolved really throughout history. And before we, oh damn, this nigga just socked me in the face. Come here, homie. What's up? Come here. Oh, fuck you up first. Oh shit. Fuck, I'm getting my ass kicked here. Okay, there we go. So we're still on ultimate level. There's a lot more enemies. Fuck, I thought Spider-Man would catch that. Shit. Fuck, okay, here we go. We got a bomb to our advantage here, nice. Oh, come on, I forgot. You know what? I keep pressing the dodge button and it just keeps failing on me. Fuck, there we go. Nice. Okay, we can use all shit, okay. We can use any help that we can get right now. Definitely. Shit, there we go. Nice, now we're talking. Fuck. Someone's trying to burn me. There we go. Nope, not gonna let you. I forgot we had that superpower too. Or suit power, suit specials, what they call it, something like that. So, not to be racist, but I just kicked the black guy's ass for the first time in my life. There we go. So he's done for. He's done for too. I'm gonna kick the fried chicken out of you, Sonny. Oh fuck! I think he got pissed from that comment. Hey, I didn't mean no disrespect. I'm just trying to do my job here. I'm Spider-Man, so I gotta. Whoa! There you go. How about I throw a motorcycle in your face? Oh, you want one too, buddy? Sure. Whoa! Okay, what can we do here? Fuck, come on, you fucking circle button. You have forsaken me, circle button. After this, I'm gonna remove you. Oh shit! And I'm gonna install another one. Okay. So this is taking a bit longer than I thought. There we go. Whoa! Come on, how could I fucking miss that? That was slow motion too. Does that mean I'm slow? Oh my god. I could be slow, guys. But most likely not. Okay. Whoa! That wasn't a grenade, buddy. Get your shit right. There we go. So we didn't get any bonuses this time, but anyway, we have a discussion to get back to. Where were we? Okay, so how has the imagination of, you know, humans across time shaped their whole, I guess, evolution? Well, let's see. Now, if you take a step back, this whole process was widely shaped by the environment that it took place in. Okay, so like in space, in the deep void of space, this representational system could be thought of as, you know, maybe if you zoom into the quantum world and whatnot, it's okay. Let's go on a limb here a little bit. Think of this whole, everything is contained in one point and whatnot, and this buildup of energy had to build up on itself, and it had to implode on itself, therefore creating its internal and external expansion simultaneously, creating multiple dimensions and just overall differentiation infinitely, and that could have caused this whole chaotic explosion of probability of what could exist. And you know, as this whole thing got more and more complex, maybe at a certain point it reached physical manifestation, a physical threshold. Enough energy was built up to cause a literal physical explosion in the middle of nothing. Like this whole nothing became something. And it makes sense, because if you say nothing, that itself is something. You're saying like, you know what I mean? I don't want to go back and forth into it a lot anymore, but it should be quite clear at this point. And so going back to humans, again, the environment has to be accountable in large part for the evolution of this representational system. And so therefore you could say that it needs to suit the needs of the environment. So okay, I guess, okay, with that being said, first, as people started to mark their existence, as building homes and whatnot, that was because the environment required it. So it required a living being to create its habitat, right? Otherwise it would die because it was too chaotic, and a home would provide some stability, security, shelter, place to rest, eat, shit, whatever. Protection from the cold. I mean, just overall protection from the environment. And as humans started to get together a little more, so they started, drawing these things. And so maybe the first couple of drawings you'd get from humans were just little representations of basic drives as they'd go about their day, like hunting, eating, again, finding shelter, mating, surviving, right? So they start drawing survival stuff, like, animals and them catching animals or evading animals, or drawing water and drawing food, maybe just simple stuff like that. And again, because those were the times back then, and as they grew and people started to get together and make civilizations, then we started to draw or represent these civilizations and make stories about them too, by word of mouth, and started to raise our newborn, I guess, children and whatnot in that manner, close together. And as we became closer to each other, the environment started to change as well. And so I don't want to say the requirements, but basically the characteristics of these representations tended to change with the changing conditions of the environment as we evolved in it, and it evolved with us, or as it evolves with us. And so it also depends where you live, as part of a group or a tribe, maybe. And that's also how you'd get differences in the representations, or differences in the common representations of a collective group, or of a group, basically. You'd get more references to camels and the desert and heat, and maybe more distress signals for water from people in Africa and stuff like that. And then you'd get, shelter and fire and stuff like that. Things that have to do with those things from the people living in, Antarctica and stuff like that, snowy places. Also, these representations fit the needs or the characteristics of the people themselves. You know, how they start to take shape and how they start to identify themselves, you know, gets its counterpart in these, you know, in the culture itself. So I guess by now we can start calling it a culture. So okay, give me a second here. We get somewhere safe. Oh, nice place here. Looks like it's an ice skating ring. Nice. Is it? I think so. Something like that. Okay. And so these things evolve across time, and civilization gets more complex and whatnot, and different conditions set for different paths of, you know, except for different paths of evolutions. And not only that, you got different groups of humans at different places of the earth. And I think at one point they all started together and then they separated, although I'm not too sure. I'd probably need to clear myself on that more, but you know, as they did separate, let's just say they did separate, these whole things started to differentiate. And and then that's when you start getting, you know, different ideologies and different ways of living and different worlds almost. And like I said, this whole thing takes physical manifestation, and people's genes started to be affected that way. I mean, this whole time, the genetic, the human genome has been affected by this whole process. I mean, again, these experiences have to go somewhere, and the physical brains have been storing this shit in their memory banks, their DNAs, again, reproducing and having stored these experiences, this knowledge. It's like a reality sustaining mechanism. And so that lays ground to assess, you know, I guess to now really start assessing the differences in the representations of these living beings or living systems, because at some point it gets too complex, you don't know what's real, and you start well, I mean, yeah, you don't know what's real. And again, that's how you get different subspecies of humans and breeding and whatnot. But so as people start to tell different things or different versions about the same thing, you need to start questioning what's real and whatnot. And you know, by this point, people have their constructed ideals, their beliefs, shared amongst each other, and they've been established most commonly in the form of, you know, folk tales, myths, and stories, like I've said before, and narratives. Not only that, but they also set standards for behavior and traditions, rituals, also to allocate resources, and you know, to establish ways to operate as a community as well, and as families. Social roles emerge from that and whatnot. Identities, and you know, this whole society starts getting really elaborate. And again, like I said, part of what sustains this whole thing is their belief on what's real and where they're going, because depending on what's real is what guides us all, again. And so because there's so many differences, you need to find the ones that matter and the ones that don't, because again, there's evolution is trial and error, and whatever is considered error gets left out, does not progress. And in that case, you could kind of figure out what's more or less real, or what's, you know, real enough, by what's been constant in the progression of the human culture. So maybe as times, you know, change, some things get left out. Maybe like a really clear example would be in the last couple of decades, where newspaper was the thing. You know, it was the main thing, it was the main source of information, just print itself. Give me a second here. And as, you know, conditions and things started to change, give me a second. So did the need for, so did, what did I say? So the idea of paper and print, you know, changed, and we switched on to, you know, electronics and, you know, digital technologies and whatnot. And basically newspapers were pretty much left out now, you know. There's still some, but, you know, it's kind of, maybe it's not the best example, but just, you know, okay, maybe, so let's try hair. You know, the hair on our skin, maybe at some point we needed it for the harsh weather and whatnot, but not anymore, so we kind of toned it down. It's just, you know, as time progresses, things change, and what is real, you know, tends to shift. Maybe it was real at some point, but not anymore. All things do die, you know. It's part of this whole grand cycle. Again, differentiation, it's a constant play of, you know, differentiating and becoming one again. And so, okay. Okay, so we need to examine basically what has changed throughout cultures and humans in history, and what has pretty much stayed the same. And, you know, that's kind of what religions are for, in a way, although that's really a topic of its own. Religion is just, we'll set that aside for later. Or, you know what, maybe let's just touch on religion a little bit, fuck it, why not? Because religion, you know, no, that was a huge mistake. I should talk a bit about religion right now, because again, it's what it is. It's a collective experience told in stories and narratives, mostly described as metaphors. Again, we already discussed this whole thing, and these metaphors, you know, are symbolic, based on our imagination. And the Bible itself, I mean, or religious Bibles and whatnot, they follow the same formula that I've been describing here, where based on the living conditions that are present at the, you know, that are present dictate the representations of, you know, people's experiences. And as time, you know, goes by, you know, these stories change and the values change, maybe the views and the perspectives. The whole evolutional course shapes itself that way. And okay, where are we going here? How about we change the suit real quick for now? Just let's see, what should we use? Should probably go with the classic one for now, maybe. Okay, that's good so far. Yeah, it looks nice and shiny. Gotta get in the sun first. There we go. Whoa, looks nice. Anyways, so religion's a perfect example because they're pretty much myths, right? And okay, so what these stories and, you know, things do is they establish figures for us humans to follow, and to believe in, right? Because again, it's a whole play on reality. What is real? Well, you can believe whatever you want, because in the first place, everything is too fucking chaotic anyway. And then you build yourself from there, right? And so these religions form figures of what, you know, and these figures tend to be personified because they're based on concepts of nature that we're trying to understand as humans again, and we personify these as human figures. You know, like goodness is, you know, represented as a man with a good heart, you know, or let's just say, all for simplicity's sake, all of the goodness seen in people is personified as one man, aka Jesus. So he's like the good person of all times in the Christian narrative. But there's many, you know, in different cultures and different myths and whatnot. But that's how you get these figures. And give me a second here, let me catch my train of thought again. Whoop, there we go. Again, it's something to believe in because it shapes our behavior and our circumstance, and it's a way of gaining control of reality. You know what I mean? But again, all this happened through our imagination. And so what you get really out of, you know, well, there you go. I mean, that's really what it is. It's about, I guess, really power. Like, you know, just raw power, maybe. Because once you gain enough awareness, once the system is complex enough, consciousness starts kind of like to get power and controls itself, really. Like, you know, like this whole natural selective system of reality that we described kind of gain at this point control of itself, and that's power right there. It's like a power. And so you start to question, okay, what's with these figures? Because in some sense they're described as, you know, powerful again. Not only the good ones, but also, you know, the negative ones, like everyone's fear, everyone's anger, and everyone's, you know, instinctual drives, whether it be to kill, to mate, to eat, and stuff like that to defend, they become powers of some sort, and it's almost like they become hard to believe, but they also, it's like, because again, it's still like a mental representation of these physical processes. It's like forces that exist that you cannot see, like the wind. And so, in a sense, you get like an emerging illusion that's real enough. And that's really like what a myth is. Like, you don't know whether it's real. It's like you have to dig into it to find its reality, because it's not apparent right away, at least not physically, in a physical sense, you know what I mean? Like the myth, like just the common myths of, you know, superheroes or heroes themselves. And I'm sorry if I haven't been, you know, relating this whole thing to Marvel and Spider-Man, but I just basically said it. You know, that's where you get, you know, figures with apparent superpowers, right? Like Jesus performed miracles and whatnot, and that's like, you know, is that real? Basically, that's like a superpower, and that's supernatural. Basically, again, we were trying to discuss it. Okay, basically in this discussion, or we were discussing how humans try to represent natural forces or nature itself, really, as an experience. And so gaining control, gaining awareness and control is like a power itself. So that's like supernatural. Now you start getting, you know, now this is where things start to get interesting, because, you know, it hints as to where the supernatural comes from. Think about this. Back then, when humans barely had control over themselves, you know, think of yourself as a primitive human, not as, well, maybe you were smart, but, you know, things were different back then. Let's just say there was no, you know, okay, well, first of all, okay. First of all, think of how it was to survive back then against animals. So, I'm pretty sure a human, maybe he was biologically fit already, or maybe the natural, maybe in that moment just nature pressured him to evolve. Anyway, so you'd have to fight animals, and large animals, and most of the time they'd be stronger than a human. So I'm pretty sure at least one human was able to overpower a dangerous animal and lived to tell it, right? So what constituted his experience? Okay, what made him do that? Maybe he was hungry enough. His hunger was strong enough. Maybe he hadn't eaten for a couple of weeks, and he was just too hungry. He wasn't gonna let that fucking bear take his fish, and he decided to knock his ass out. And he lived to tell it. He had children, and maybe he taught them how, and then, you know, he taught. Sorry, let me catch my breath here. Maybe that bear taught his cubs to, or that human, my bad, that human taught his son to stalk bears, you know, just in case he needs, you know, whatever. And so you get, you know, humans like this performing miraculous shit to survive. you know, basically here and there, you know, in pretty obscure areas, maybe sometimes in public areas where other people see it, but you know, just little discrete moments of miracles like that by law have to get stored somewhere in this natural process, right? And ends up becoming represented in culture, right? As, you know, just something supernatural. And it's hard to believe because we already have trouble believing anything as it is, let alone something that's just way out there that, you know, that you have to basically experience yourself only in order to believe, because again, this whole thing is about experiencing reality and telling about it.
All units, an emergency supply being raided by fugitives. Reported location is near the theater district.
The supernatural. Well, let's just say humans start going through absolutely just crazy stuff, you know, like fighting large animals, getting lost in a cave, or just getting lost in the great sea. Now, let's spice things up a bit. Back then, there was no light posts or artificially created light. Back then, if you wanted light, you had to wait for the sun or start a fire. So there was no light pollution in the sky. Now, think of the view of the sky back then. You could see pretty much all the fucking stars. Now, would you think that, you know, a certain human or certain humans here and there would have seen things in the sky out of the normal, you know? Just think about that. Where when the sky was absolutely clear and there was nothing, you know, to obscure, there was no organizations of humans with technology and whatnot capable of, you know, capable of dealing or capable of manufacturing realities and whatnot, or intervening with the perceptual process of others' experience, other humans' experience. Just imagine the kind of things, you know, certain humans have seen throughout history back then, before, you know, again, there was any technology and whatnot, where the sky was clear and, you know, the only way to tell about it was to draw it out or tell someone the best way you could. And, you know, things out of the sky. Of course, I'm talking about aliens. It's crazy. I mean, think about that. Now, not only that, supernatural stuff. I mean, miracles. Just, I don't know. I mean, what is supernatural, really? If you give it thought, like ghosts. Well, okay, well, you can make a good argument with hallucination and whatnot, because, like, again, first of all, the physical world that you see is not really what it is. You know, again, it's a mental representation of what is there. It's the best your brain can do for you to see and navigate this 3D physical world. But in altering states of consciousness, either physiologically or just, you know, hypnotically, you start to filter out, you know, realities and such, or filter out perceptions. Your perceptions start to change and you get different realities. Like,